Welcome to season 2 premiere of Every Woman. We are back and kicking off things with a conversation that we all need to have: love, relationships, and those hard truths that are hard to come with. This is Love Month after all. Tonight, we're going to ask the big questions. How do we still show up for ourselves, love ourselves, whether we're single, dating, divorced, or even married? So let's get real. We have to talk about the icks and the absolute nots and the things that gives us a side eye to our partner. But we've got an incredible panel, a live audience, and some juicy, juicy conversations. So let's get into it. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Dawn Cherie. I'm your host for tonight's show. And today on the couch, we have 3 lovely ladies with me who came out to have some good fun and girl chat. So ladies, tell me a little bit about yourselves.
So I'm Jumaris. I'm a college student, and I'm kind of like in the midst of like between single and a relationship potentially. So that's where I'm at in this world.
And in one word, tell me, describe your relationship.
Exciting.
Exciting.
I'm Amy, and I was married for 15 years. I've been divorced for and been dating, and it's interesting at this age in my 40s, dating now.
Awesome. I'm Latoya. I am the owner of Millennium Marriage, and I am married to my husband of 15 years, been together 25. So it's been a journey. We're learning and continuing to learn and grow every day.
With this episode, we're really excited because we have a whole live audience and we're going to be passing the mic around. So you're not going to just hear from these amazing women on this panel, but you're going to hear from real live women in the audience that have everyday situations going on. So I'm excited. Let's get into it, ladies. So in the audience, on the panel, how many of us are single? Okay, so you guys can't see that, but I have 2 hands and you're single. How many are married? Okay, so we have single, we have married. How many don't want anything to do with it? Okay, so no one's saying that. So let's get into it. So when you're talking about, for example, I'm an independent woman. I consider myself independent. I'm very strong in my demeanor. Oftentimes when I was dating, people would say to me that I was intimidating. They said I was too strong. I was too bold of a woman. So I'm curious if anyone on this panel can speak to that. When you were single, before you identified yourself as being married or with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I have spent a lot of time, I'm young, but I've spent a lot of time by myself seeing my friends in relationships and kind of seeing like that they spend a lot of time together, especially on weekends when, you know, college stuff is happening, they want to go to bars and things. And I'm like, all right, well, time to find things to do and things to enjoy. So I think I've gotten a lot of time to figure out what I like to do by myself and, you know, like comfort movies and things like that, like to really spend time and really get a personal relationship with myself and know like what I want for the future, what I'm looking for, what I'm not looking for, things like that.
Right. Anybody else want to jump in?
I feel like, especially being on dating apps, men will say they're looking for this woman who is confident, who is self-sufficient, and you know, strong, like you're saying how you are. And then when we show up like that, then you hear maybe intimidation or, you know, it's a little confusing to someone, you know, I think to a lot of women, if they're saying they want that and then we're showing this is who we are, but then they're kind of not, it's hard, it's difficult.
When I'm working, I do a lot of trauma work. So I am not the most pleasant, feel-good person because I'm saving lives. Like nothing is important at that moment than what I'm doing. So they'll say that's very intimidating. I don't want to talk to you. Well, I'm married now, so no one's talking to me. But when I was single, they said it made me unapproachable, that I was too hard. But like you were saying, men will say, well, I want to see this woman strong. I want to see that she has her own, it's beautiful to see that she has her own head on her shoulder. But when you show them that woman, they then say she's too much. She does act like she doesn't need a man.
Right.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my husband and I have been together more than half of my life at this point. So there wasn't too much independence with us, right? So, but I come from a family of strong women, strong, independent women. So there was always this I don't know if it's an expectation, but to do well, to succeed in everything that I've done, in leadership, and even in our careers, we face this a lot. You know, if we're strong, being in a boardroom with a bunch of men, we get looked at a certain way. I think in relationships, it's a challenge to balance, because that's who you are. It's not an act, it's just a part of who you are. So it's difficult when someone wants you to adjust that, right, because it's just me. At the same time, I can understand the perspective of men who want to feel needed in a relationship, because our men are taught that their responsibility is to care for us and to do what they can to provide for us. But if that is their key role or core understanding of what it means to be a man in a relationship, how do they do that if we're not willing to surrender any of that to them? So I see both perspectives of that.
And a lot of times men are not taught to like accept when you're giving them the strength that you have, like you can provide for them too, and they're not willing to accept that. Like they don't understand that, not that they don't understand, but they're not given the tools by society to be told like you can let your guard down and let someone take care of you every once in a while. Right. And it's good to have a powerful woman with you because she can take on some of your burden, you can balance each other out and kind of have each other's backs.
I know for me, I'm a strong woman, but when I cross that threshold and I'm in my house, I don't want to be a strong woman. Mm-hmm. I want to be taken care of. I need to know that you have it. But if you show me this much that you can't, mm-hmm, then I become a different kind of woman. Right. You know, so I'm really curious. I know we have a woman in the audience right now who's a pastor. So I don't know if we can get a microphone to her, but I'm really curious because we were talking about women in leadership and what that looks like in terms of relationships. And I know that this woman happened to have been a pastor. So I would love to hear from you speaking from the clergy, because you were a pastor, which means you were a woman and you were a leader. Mm-hmm. And how did that work with whether you were single or whether you were dating and still being a pastor or even married?
Well, I will tell you, it's an art. Mm-hmm. It's an art to hold on to yourself, as we're talking about, and yielding so that he feels like he has a space. The interesting thing about being a woman is that we can multitask things and we can multitask emotions. And so we can at the same time feel strong and at the same time yield so he has his space. But it's a balancing act because like you said, men aren't taught. You know, they're taught, I want a strong woman. That's in persona. But when it comes to being at home, it's like you be the pastor over there, but when you home, you my wife. And I'm like, well, I'm the same person whether I'm home. So it's a balancing act, it's a juggling act, and it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
It takes sacrifice because as a woman, you feel like you have to dummy down sometimes. Yeah. You can't always stand flat foot on who you are as a woman based on the man because they're spoiled and they're babies. And it's unfortunately, you have a lot of men who just don't have the confidence to walk with a confident woman. And sometimes for them, they don't know how to pull back. They don't know how to yield. The Bible talks about submit one to another, but the only part they read is submit to me.
Say it again, because I don't
It says submit one to another. Wait. And here's something, the Bible never tells women how to love their husband. Yep. It tells them respect their husband. But there's a whole litany of verses to tell a man how to love a woman. Now think about why is that? Why do they need a whole litany of how to love us? And I'm gonna tell you why. The only time God said something wasn't good was in the garden. He said the earth was good, everything was good. The only time God said something was not good was for the man to be alone. That's why she was created. So we were created to make the not good good. Now imagine if you were told that when you were a little girl. You're not created to be a doormat, a baby maker, his helpmeet. You're created to make the not good good. So when you walk with the confidence of knowing who you're created to be, then you don't entertain foolishness the same way. I say minimize your frustration. You already know who you married. Learn to work with it. Don't get mad at him because you said yes.
So thank you so much for that, which leads me to the next thing. We talked about women who are single. We're going to just kind of be fluid, go back and forth. What about the women who were married and then divorced? So for those women, and I'm looking at you because you and I share the couch. We were both married and then divorced. Yes. So what is that like for you? Do you have a tainted look on what relationships is based on what your experiences were when you were married?
That's a great question. I think that for my circumstance, it's been such a long time. I think at first I was thinking, I was I was very young when I got married. I was 19, and I had a child, and it was all that. After we ended, I took time to like know myself. I never lived by myself before. It was very scary. I was just learning who I was as a person. It was difficult for me to start dating again because I didn't even know what I wanted or what I liked or what I was even looking for. At that point, I thought it was for me to get married again, right? Like that's my next step. Like I'm just supposed to find someone who's good this time and it's gonna work and I'm gonna get married again. And so like as dating evolved and I was engaged again and I realized that's not, you know, exactly how, that doesn't have to be my purpose. My purpose can be, you know, doing things for myself, making myself better, learning to just who I am and like what do I enjoy. But I also I really would love a man, right? I do want to share my life, but also that's not a need. And I think that's something I had to learn. I'm not tainted from that. I know that I'm going to find what I'm looking for, but I'm also not willing to accept anything below what I want, because I've worked really hard on myself also in relationship counseling and stuff like that, to know how to, you know, what I can provide in a relationship, so what I can give back in a relationship. And I just feel that we should both be valued on both sides, and I don't want to just accept something just to be with someone.
So I know for the most part, my age, I can say I'm 48, I'll be 49 in a month, but I'm really curious on the panel and also on the floor, how many people are in their 20s? I know you're in your 20s. Anyone in their 20s out here? No? Oh, okay, yes. So we have people in their 20s. What about anyone in their 30s here? So no 30s.
I like to say I'm always 39.
But I'm not. I'm in my 40s. 35 7 times. I'm in my 40s.
Me too.
And anyone in their 50s? Okay, so we have a vast majority. I'm going to bounce it over to you because you work with couples, and I'm sure that they're array from ages 20s through 50s. Yeah. Do you find specifically, especially for those women who were married and then divorced, like do you feel like they have like the same opinion?
For the most part, because we have worked with quite a few couples who, whether it's the wife or the husband, have been married before, and the ones that we've worked with more recently are in the process of getting married. They're not married yet, right? So we're preparing them for that. The biggest thing that we have conversations about is how to navigate those hurts, and we call it baggage, but the things that you're carrying from your previous relationship, how to navigate that in the new one, right? How not to put those expectations or those doubts or whatever challenge you had in the previous relationship into the current relationship. I believe the most important thing is, one, to face those things head on, right? We have to identify, we have to have conversations about it. Communication is the most important thing, whether you've been married before or not. You have to be able to communicate your expectations, because that will be an easy way for you to walk right into divorce when those unspoken expectations aren't met. So many times we're like, well, he should know, she should know. How will they know, right? You all grown up differently, you have different backgrounds, your family dynamic has been different, your relationship experiences are different, right? And we respond based on our experiences. So, you know, the expectations have to be discussed, right? The conversations about what I have gone through in my previous relationships, and here's why I have these expectations now. And when you have those conversations, it really opens the floodgates to how far you can go in growing together, because you're clear about, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. Can you meet that need? And if not, let's talk about it. Is that something that I'm willing to accept, or is that something that, you know, is a hard no for me and there's no reason for us to move forward? So I think, you know, those conversations are really important, and being open and transparent in that communication.
So for me, I've been married, I've been divorced. That was terrible. That was the worst. And like you, we have a panel, a person in the audience that also had the same kind of experience, and how fast we will jump to divorce. So if I get upset and I'm like, that's why my last name is still Paramore, because I just in case, you know. He's watching his friends like, I'm going to kill her. But no, but it makes it very, like to your point, it makes it very easy for me to say, I just don't want to deal with what I did before. And I've gotten older, so I know what my boundaries are, my hard negotiations. Like I will not accept this. This is not a negotiable for me. So I'm curious for you, because you're in your 20s, you are single, you're hearing like all these women, different ages, different backgrounds. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I'd say it is it's very enlightening, especially hearing from people who have been divorced and are dating again or seeing other people again, or in second marriages, third marriages, whatever. Because I think, especially like growing up, hearing people's parents being divorced was very like, obviously that's a very different perspective, and it hits them a lot like differently. But when your parents are divorced, a lot of times it feels like they're done. When like it wasn't like your parents were married and then that's it forever, you know, like they continue to live a life and they have a life together or separate, and then beyond that they're able to like experience further. So I think, I don't know, it's a very interesting thing of like, I guess not seeing divorce as like the end all be all and like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. And even if the emotions are heightened in the moment, like there's so much more life to live and you've got like a ton to experience, whether you choose like, okay, that didn't work for me and then I'm done and I'm just gonna, you know, live my life by myself with my friends, whatever, or you know what, I'll look again and see what there is. It kind of feels like a little hopeful, honestly, like just that I think a lot of people in their 20s in college have a pressure of like, I need to find my person. Yes. And it doesn't have to happen that way. Right. And sometimes your person isn't the first person you find, it's the 15th. You know? Like,
what do they say in college? Some people are going there for their MRS.
Yeah, graduate their MRS, a ring by spring.
Yeah. A ring by spring.
And to me, I feel like, of course that happens for tons of people, but I think a lot of times expecting that to be the perfect situation forever in a fairy tale moment is not what's gonna happen for everyone. And it's just nice to hear perspectives that it's like, yeah, that it didn't work out for me, and I'm still living and I'm thriving and I'm you know, living my best life.
So what are the challenges then for the 20-somethings in college that they want to date, you know, but they maybe not want to move too fast, or some maybe do? Like, what are the challenges that you see?
I think because in your 20s, it's such a period of growth, especially when you're a student or you're beginning your new careers and things, you still don't know who you are or where you want to land in the world. And then when you start dating somebody or having a relationship, you expect that you're gonna fit like puzzle pieces and it's gonna be perfect. And I think a lot of people are not open to seeing things change and their dynamics shift and realizing, you know what, I'm focusing towards this really intense career and I don't know if this person fits in my life for that, or are they able to make a compromise in how we live our lives? Are we gonna stay together and live together while we do this? Are we gonna decide to see other people and move our separate ways? And a lot of people that are interested in relationships and wanting those relationships don't see that kind of side. And then on the opposite side, a lot of people will act as though they're seeking relationships when really they're looking for attention or like a physical connection just in the moment, and then kind of have a little deception in there to try and make you feel like, oh, this is, you know, going somewhere. And that's not always the case. And I think it just boils down to my, like, we've all gone through a lot through like our teenage years of, you know, COVID and everything. Yeah. And that kind of isolated all of us. So we have very little concept of how to communicate with each other. Yeah. So when we sit down and it's like, well, what are you looking for? We don't know. And we don't even know how to say we don't know. It's easy to be like, oh, well, I want a boyfriend, but not realize what that means for me necessarily.
You just said something that really just blew my mind, because we are forgetting that we did go through this pandemic and life was totally different. So much that, you know, everything is done in a text message, including how people break up in a text message.
Right. Yeah, and it was a very, like, it was obviously impacted everybody, but it started when I was 17. So it was a very pivotal time and I was not able to experience like dating.
Right.
if you were dating someone during COVID, you would get on a FaceTime call once a week. It wasn't like, oh, let's actually see each other and see how this works. Or maybe I'll date one person, doesn't work out for a little bit, see someone else. You're not seeing anybody. And I think that has really contributed to our need to use dating apps and texting language and things like that, where we're not being as open or able to kind of hide behind our screens a little bit, which I know is, I feel like I'm like overusing a phrase that everyone uses, but.
Does anyone ever say, let's talk on the phone?
It's very rare. And
Right.
I will say,
It's like,
if I'm gonna talk on the phone, I'd rather do like a FaceTime or something where I can
Right.
see their face too.
Right.
But for me, it's like we're texting or we're on a call, like a video call. Like I don't really want to talk on the phone. But yeah, like that's one thing where even just like silly things where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go on a date with this person. I've never heard their voice.
Right.
So I don't even know what to expect. Like what if that, like something there doesn't click, you know? But yeah, I think that has really made a like huge impact on how we relate to one another, and are just unfortunately lacking a certain level of communication of like, yeah.
You just blew my mind. So I'm actually going to turn to the panel, to the audience. And I'm specifically looking at one woman because she mentioned she's from New York, and she also mentioned like that you pretty much would not do that. So I'm really curious, like what did she say and how that resonated with you specifically, coming from like the New York area, and you're like, I'm not doing the marriage thing, like I'm good. So how did what she said and the fact that, you know, going through COVID and the dating, what are your thoughts about that?
First of all, let me say you are incredibly mature. I was never that mature at your age. I think I was just vicariously living through moments at your age, just trying to figure out who I was and where I wanted to be and where I didn't want to be. But I loved everything that you had to say. It's like you have this great thought process in your brain or whatever, and you know exactly who you need to be in these moments. So kudos to you for that, because there are a lot of people at your age that haven't gotten there yet, right? Like they struggle with that. And I think young people, they kind of submit to things just to kind of be involved in something. And I think we do that too. Like older women do that too, especially those who have probably been married. And then you have this horrible marriage and you go, oh my God, yeah, I'm not doing that again. Like, yeah, that broke my heart. And then now you're trying to figure it out. But for me, coming from such a busy place, and New York is just, it's just so fast all the time. There was no quiet time. There was no quiet time. I didn't get quiet time until I moved to Delaware. I'll be totally honest. I didn't get quiet time until I moved here. I didn't really realize who I was or what I wanted, like you said, until I was able to block out the noise, right? Because everything you do when you're married, you're doing because we are taught, please him, make sure he's okay, give him what he needs, do all the things that, you know, you're supposed to do as a wife or whatever, because that's your job, right? Like your longings, your wants, your needs, your desires, they come second, third. His come first, kids come second, kids come first, he comes second, in those orders, but we're always last. We're never going to the store to buy something for ourselves. We're going to the store to make sure they're okay first, right? It literally took for me to get here to slow my life down, right? I literally ran from New York and I got here and I said, let me be quiet. I had to listen to my inner thoughts to understand what I wanted and how I wanted to progressively move forward. And I couldn't do that until I blocked out the noise. Now, I'm not doing that anymore. It's my space. And to be in my space, I have to be transparent. I have to tell you what I want, right? It has to be on the table and we have to both agree. I don't walk into the relationship saying it's only for me. It has to be a dual effort. But if the expectations aren't clear, it ain't gonna work. But I know I don't want to be married again. That I know. That I know.
Thank you so much for that. So we're just getting warmed up, but we're going to get ready to go to a commercial break. It's all good, but don't go anywhere. We will have more to talk about and unpack on love, relationships, and those hard and happy endings right after this break. Stay tuned.
Attention Delaware small business owners. If you're looking to grow in 2025, I encourage you to check out the Delaware Division of Small Business Edge Grant Competition. STEM companies can earn up to $100,000 and entrepreneur class companies up to $50,000. Applicants must employ 10 or fewer individuals, be majority located right here in Delaware, and have been in operation less than 7 years.
For more information, visit de.gov/edge.
I'm Dr. Dawn Cherie. Welcome back to Every Woman. We're about to turn it up a little notch. So we've been talking about relationships, and we're about to get into it. So ladies, intimacy. I just jumped right in. No life raft.
All right.
Just jumped in. So I am really curious in terms, like, I'm a married woman, you are single. There's a lot of us that are in between. I'm curious what the panel, what the audience have to say in regards to intimacy. So for me, for example, when I get mad, just gonna keep it real, you're not getting any intimacy from you. From me, you're not. That's not gonna happen, right? But from talking with you, you said you should not withhold. Like if you're in a marriage, you should not withhold that part. But when I am upset, there is no part of me that wants any part to do with you. Because I honestly feel like this. I think what men do not understand, or women, depending on what your relationships are, they don't realize that women are very emotional creatures. You have to make love to us from the morning, meaning the way you talk to us, calling us throughout the day, sending us text message. It is not just come home and then all of a sudden you're expecting this show, because I am not an actress. So with that being said, I'm really curious what the panel has to say, what the audience has to say when it comes to intimacy and holding out.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we say to our couples to try to explain or discuss the dynamics when it comes to intimacy. Men are like a microwave, women are like a crock pot, right? A man, you turn on the lights, let's go, they're ready to go, okay? But it's easier for men to compartmentalize, right? So when they come home from work, work's over, I don't want to talk about work, I want to go chill, I want to play my game, I want to talk to my friends, whatever. Women, with our emotional state, we carry so much with us, and it's more challenging for us to compartmentalize. So when it comes to our intimacy, for us, the full experience is involved, our emotions, right? It's not just physical for us. And that doesn't mean that men don't have emotions connected to intimacy as well. It just looks a little bit different, right? We were created differently. It's just who we are. So again, for me, everything goes back to communication. You have to know your partner. You have to have these conversations. When it comes to the withholding, right? We don't want to weaponize intimacy. That's the difference. Right now, that doesn't mean that you can't say, I can't right now. I'm just not in the mood. I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that, or I'm just not there. Or we're dealing with something that needs to be addressed first, right? We have to communicate those things. But there's a difference between I need some time, and have those discussions, and weaponizing it, saying because you didn't meet this need, I'm not going to meet this need.
I agree with you there. I don't think it should be used in that way.
Yeah.
But like if we just had not a heated conversation.
Right. That's not the time or the place.
Don't come to me. Yes. Don't get close to me. I don't want to, none of that, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, I have a child. So there's times listen. So I'm really curious as I turn to the audience. She's like, let's go.
I was thinking about my age. I'm 51, 2.
You look
I'll be
good.
52 this year. Yeah, I'll be 52.
You look good.
Thank you. But I'm in menopause. So I think men and women miss the mark on andropause and menopause. Andropause is when men's testosterone level is going down. And of course, we all know what menopause is. But I didn't recognize perimenopause. So a lot of times, because that's my specialty now. That's my practice. That's what I do. I specialize in managing women's hormones. You don't know the depths of how bad you go through when you're in perimenopause and you're just thinking it's life. So when my husband and I talk now, a lot of our arguments was due to me being just moody and not understanding what was going on with my body. We're like, just leave me alone. Right. And the divorce rate amongst women and men in that age group is so high. And really, if you knew what was going on inside your body and kind of rebalance your hormones, a lot of things don't happen. So when I went in menopause, it hit me like a light bulb. And I was embarrassed because I didn't want to be touched. I had no desire. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, you know, I always say, my husband goes to sleep before me, but I would be tired. And I'm like, please let him be asleep. You know, when I get in, and I would like tiptoe in the bed. And then I'm like, we have a king size bed. And I'm like, great. Crawl in my bed. And then he was like, hey, babe. I'm like, no, I'm not asleep now. I'm really tired. So communication. Once I had to tell him, I just am not the same person, because sometimes I would set off an argument because I was too embarrassed to talk about and understand what was going on with my body.
Yeah.
And when those lines of communication opened up, my husband was more patient with me. So I think we missed the ball, but I do think, like, for me, I can compartmentalize. I'm sorry. Coming home when I was dealing with 19, 18 patients as a nurse practitioner, don't ask me about my day at all. I just want to hug. Yeah. I just want to pillow fight. Can I just crawl up on the couch? I don't want to be that role in my house. And that's where our relation, like, my husband's my best friend. So for me, I was like, I'm not gonna say this, but I am. I don't think myself as an independent woman. I'm a confident woman because my husband is my dependency. He is a maintainer of my home. He maintains me mentally, spiritually, and physically. And when men understand that that's their role, then they get submission. Then they get all the things they want. But if you can't maintain me mentally, spiritually, and financially, then I'm not for you. And so that is my boundary. Those are boundaries, but I didn't know that at 19. I was watching All My Children, thinking I was Erica Kane.
Yes, this show, this episode, it's about women, but there are men that want to see what tea we're spilling on the floor. They want to see what we're talking about. But men, I don't think, understand that piece. I don't think they get that. Like, when I talk about like making love to the woman all day, like her mind, that's what I mean. Like, you can't just go and just expect us to be on and then we're just like, let's go, lights, camera, action. There is a
4 sons, and I taught them all that. You will never find anyone like me with you being immature, petty, and thinking that somebody, like, don't you ever, and I tell their friends, don't you ever take money from him. I mean, don't you ever give him money. I tell my daughter-in-laws that, no, make him do everything. Make him earn your respect. Don't go around helping him when they're in that young age. So, you know, that's what I raise my sons that way. You are the maintainer of the home, mentally, physically, spiritually, and morally.
Now, out of us married women, we have someone on the floor who has been married the longest. So I would love to hear from you in regards to intimacy. Like, you have been, you could teach us right about this book. So what do you have to say about this? No.
But I've heard some very good points here this evening. I was just sharing with the young lady, I said, when I was coming up, you went through the room of 40, 50s, but you didn't get into the 60s. So I'm looking at 65 right now. Ooh, and so the dynamics changes a lot between when you got married at 25 and now that you're 65. And when I was dating, we did not have cell phones. We didn't have technology. We dated. We got to know one another. You know, we took the time to do counseling and things of that nature on the front end and get to know the ins and outs and the responsibilities. A lot of people don't want to ask the hard questions. You know, when I was dating my husband, he had a mother that was a double amputee. And so our pastor that was counseling us at the time said, well, if something should happen to his mother, you know, would she be able to come live with you? And I said, well, absolutely not. Because I knew she didn't like me as his wife. She liked the other woman that he was seeing earlier on. So it's like, you have to understand the ground where you have to make it plain in the beginning. You know, not, oh, sure, definitely, I would love to have, no. You know it's not gonna work. You're setting yourself up already. You know, so a lot of times, the key word that I kept hearing all night is communication. And communication is the key. And communication will squash a whole lot of things at the top of the day for you to get to the end of the day. you know, throughout the day, texting, calling, just saying a little emoji here and there and things of that nature. It's keeping the lines of communication open at all times. And then when you have grown children that go home, leave home, come back home, and things of that nature, things change. Dynamics in relationships change all the time. And a lot of people saw their parents divorce or their aunts and uncles divorce, and so they thought, that's the way we do it. That's how it happens. And you just move on along and get somebody else. But again, you have to start all over again when you start over again. You don't, like people saying, oh, I've been married 40 years. Well, I was married to one for 10 years, one for 12 years, and one for 5 years. It's not cumulative. You know, we always start back at zero. We always start back at zero. And again, you think you had it bad until you go to the next and you find out, oh my God, I really had it good. I didn't realize how good I had it. You know, so a lot of times we don't take the time to look at the whole picture, evaluate ourselves, evaluate him, balance it out and find out because I'm a talker. I am what am I called? An extrovert, and my husband's an introvert. But we get along very well. You know, we get along very well. But again, I had to always explain to people, well, no, he likes you. That's just the way he is. That's just the way he is. But eventually, as long as we've been around each other, we've now opened up. He's become much more, communicative and things of that nature. And people get to know him on another level that I knew him on.
With the fact that you've been married so long, do you think that intimacy is like a #1 factor for marriage?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Because again, it's been 65 years, and as she said, menopause and things of that nature do come into play. And some of us actually go through it much earlier than 50, and some people go through it at 35.
But
35.
there's other ways you can be intimate.
I'm sorry?
It's other ways that you can be intimate.
Oh,
it's
yes,
not
and
always...
I was gonna say, and intimacy isn't just always straight up sex.
Right.
Intimacy is,
Right.
Like she was saying, come home, get on the couch, let's watch some, SUV. Rub my feet, please. Rub my back. Can you get me in the tub and rub my back? So a lot of things lead up. It's not always that knockdown, drag out, and yes, oh, wow, I can sleep now. No, it's throughout the day. We have intimate moments all throughout the day.
Right.
And especially when we're together on the weekends, because we work different shifts. And that's another thing. For years, we worked days. I worked days, he worked nights. And so these are things that you have to be able to handle when somebody's not always in your home all the time, even though you're married. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of things that go into a successful marriage, but you have to be willing to do the work. And you have to be willing to put the time in and give each other a chance to grow, because we're always changing. We change on a daily, weekly basis. We're not the same person this year as we were last year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then the promises that were made to you in your marriage, the Lord makes you promises. And then you turn around and you give up on them, and then all the promises come to somebody else. And you missed out on the promises that you were supposed to get. You know what I'm saying? And you get to see it. So I'm telling you, 40 years seems like a long time, but it has been worth every minute. And everybody can't say that. I really enjoy being married. I love my husband dearly. We are best of friends. And at the end of the day, we always say, yes, we have daughters. Yes, we have friends. But at the end of the day, it's you and me, kid.
And the key is you both worked on it together.
Yes. And
it wasn't just one.
And we're intentional about it.
Yes.
We're intentional about it. And people don't, they create their own vows and they say different things. And I believed what I said, for rich or for poor, for sickness and health. Not when, now, like the young lady said one time ago, I got sick, I got cancer, and my husband divorced me. You said, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others, you know what I'm saying? But again, we don't realize what we said 10 and 12 years later, what we said. Did we really believe what we said?
Right. So I want to now bounce it to the panel. What are your thoughts? Because that was, for me, I got to see different levels of intimacy. And I know that there's many different levels of it, but when you're mad, right? And I don't think about rubbing nobody's feet. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I'm like really upset. So I'm really curious, like, what are your thoughts about that? When you're dating, like how do you maintain intimacy and still handle yourself? How do you handle it bouncing back from divorce? What do you tell your clients?
Yeah, I think how you mentioned, like, there's obviously different levels of intimacy. And I feel like that can kind of be some of the balance of like, I'm too mad at you to like you know, really cuddle and get close up together. But you know what? We can like sit on the couch and watch TV together, I guess. Like I can handle that. And like kind of, you know, kind of having those moments of like, you know, still being in each other's presence, but not, it doesn't have to go as far as it might go another day, whatever. And especially like new relationships and things like that, when you're navigating those things and still learning each other's personalities, it's a big part of that. Of like, you know, sometimes you just want to like sit there doing your own separate thing, but in the same room together. And that can be intimate, you know, that can still provide something for you that is different than if you were by yourself, you know.
What about the two of you?
Well, just to kind of piggyback off of what you said regarding the intimacy not just being physical. So there's emotional, there's spiritual, there's intellectual, right? And when we talked about earlier, like it's different for us. Like we have to kind of be all in. So those other types of intimacy can lead to physical intimacy, right? And when those other areas are lacking, more than likely the physical area is going to be lacking, right? It has to be a combination. But really, it's an internal, I don't want to say battle, but you know, I feel like there's things that we have to acknowledge internally within ourselves to say, here are my needs, but is there something within me that's stopping me from being able to get to that level of intimacy? Whether you're mad or you're in a good mood, regardless of what the situation is, right? Many times, like you said, it could be something physical. It could be, you know, something you dealt with at work, right? I think a lot of times if we're able to kind of stop and reflect on where we are in the moment, forget trying to be intimate with your partner. Just where am I in the moment? Right. What do I need in this moment? Whether it's alone time, whether it's I just need you to listen, whether it's I need advice, right? So really knowing ourselves well enough to be able to navigate that so that, you know, when it does come to trying to be intimate with your partner, you know how to express where you are, you know, whether it's, you know, I want to be intimate with you, but here's what I'm dealing with, and here's what I need to get to that space. So again, it's just understanding ourselves more. And I think that helps us to be able to navigate it with our partner a little bit better.
And I'm going to bring up something else. When you're single, I like sex. And sometimes I just need sex. And like, I think today in like trying to date and like, sorry, but it's the truth. And you know, like, of course, I love intimacy. I love being treated well and everything like that. And I do want that and stuff. But sometimes too, like, I like me some sex. So
moving on to the next thing.
Okay, you said spice it up. I'm spicing it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? So I'm an Army chaplain, and we do what's called Build a Strong and Ready Team. So I do a lot of relationship training. And one of the things I say to my soldiers is that the same way that women want to have this emotional need and then men just want to hit it and quit it, both of them, it has to be a movement both ways. So I said, when y'all in the heat of an argument, just start taking your clothes off.
I know.
Wait a minute.
If you still mad, at the end, then keep arguing.
Yes.
But for me, it's just different. We talking about compartmentalizing. You need to make love to me during the day. When I see my husband every 4 months, I don't care what's going on.
Yeah, you're like, take it
You
off.
got 7 days. Yeah. I don't care if you mad, sad, or whatever. We gonna do it because I want me some because I ain't had none in 4 months. And you talking about an argument? Nah, we gonna compartmentalize. We're going to put that on the shelf. We're going to handle our business. And if it's important when it's over, we'll come back to it.
Yes.
Do you remember there was an episode, I don't know if anybody, if you watch this, there was an episode on The Bachelor, Bachelorette. And this time it was a woman and the men were pursuing the woman. Well, usually on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, they have this, you know, at the end where they have this, they call it a fantasy suite.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And it's always like, go boy, you know, you did it, you know, if the guys do it. But if this one particular one, the woman had her, you know, fun with who she wanted in the bachelor, in the fantasy suite. But it was a double jeopardy. It was like, it was okay for the man to try all these women, but it was not okay for the woman that was dating these men to have her moment. I'm really curious, like, what are your thoughts about that, especially from the single women? Like, what are your thoughts about intimacy? Because I think our society does have a double standard
I think so, and I think dating today is completely different. I think you have to look at things different. You have to be, like, I always thought, date to get married, date to get married, I'm getting married. You have to kind of change your thought, like, I'm meeting this person, I want to see what this person is like. I'm not saying I'm gonna meet this person, I'm going out with them, I wanna marry them. I'm saying I wanna see what this is gonna, am I gonna like to hang out with him? Am I gonna feel sexually attracted to him? Is this gonna be exciting? Like, what do you want out of each relationship? You don't have to have these labels. Right. And stuff like that, but you have to be communication and clear about what you are looking for with whoever you're, wanting to meet, date, or, have a relationship with. But it's very different now. But I think it's okay, like, it's okay for women to say, I just want some sex. Like,
and I think a lot of people too, like, forget, like, at the end of the day, we're human beings, but we're animals, and like, fortunately or unfortunately, physicality in, like, psychologically and, like, physically is a need, like, whether you want it to be or not. Not for everybody, everyone's different, but a lot of times it's one of those things where it's like, it's a need, and your body has feelings and your brain has feelings, and sometimes, things happen. And I think people like to say that women are very different, but not always.
We shouldn't be made to feel bad if
right.
we, like she did, wanted to have the same intimacy with each guy she was with, maybe to see what her bond would be, how it would be differently with each. Not so much like how good each one is. Maybe it was more like how good is her bond going to feel with each one, right. Not so much how good are they in bed, right? Like, there shouldn't be that, if a guy does it and a girl, it's very hard. And then also, if a girl does that, then she's labeled something. Mm-hmm. Yes. Right.
So I'm gonna pass it out to the audience.
Let me just say, again, kudos to you.
Yes.
You are so mature, right? I'm listening to her talk and I'm just like blown away, right? But here's my thing. I swear, here's my thing. At my age, and I will be totally candid, I will be 55, right? I know exactly who I am, and I know exactly what I want. And I'm like you. There are times I just want to have some sex, right? We don't have to have this relationship, and it doesn't have to have this hard label on it, right? But if I've been talking to you for 4 months on the phone, we done went out to the coffee, we done had coffee, we done had everything, and then we get that one moment and we kiss. And you're a horrible kisser.
Oh, it's done. I'm done.
It's done. My God, yeah. I'm done. It's over. Yeah. Like, it's completely over. Like, I'm ghosting you. Like, right? Let me just say that out loud. Right? Like, right? I am so ghosting you. Yes, I am so ghosting you. Like, the kiss is so intimate, right? It's important. The kiss is important. It's important. But there are people who are worthy of you teaching how to kiss, right? I have to teach you how to kiss me, because everybody doesn't know how. We are all different women, and we all don't like the same thing, right? We are not cookie cutters, so you just can't come and go boom, 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 like it's over. No, bro. This is who I am. I know what I want, and here's how I need you to do this. And it's okay sometime. I'm not interested in the double standard, because I know who I am and what my worth is. So I'm not interested in what she has to say or he has to say. I know my worth and who I am. And when you are comfortable in your space, the chatter behind, she's out, and, right? Like, I'm paying my way. I am that independent. I'm that person. Yes. And sometimes it's exactly what you said, and it's okay. I just want to say that out loud.
Yes. So I just want to, you go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. You gotta stand up?
Yeah.
I won't, but my feet hurt. So I'm very interested in, like, the whole conversation right here, because I do have to, like, sometimes talk to my friends, and I do hear, like, and I'm not, like, I'm not saying it like that, but I do hear people say, like, oh, I just want to have sex with somebody tonight and blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's okay, but not for our age bracket. Like, you guys are grown.
That was nice. That was good.
You guys are grown. I'm still, at the end of the day, like, I believe, like, even my parents, even everybody in this world, I believe everybody is still growing and still learning.
Yeah.
I believe that wholeheartedly. We still have to learn more as young girls. I don't believe that, I feel like you should live your life as a young girl with everything that you do should be for your goal. So if your intention is to marry, you should act like you should be married. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should move like that. If you don't want to be one day, then you can move like that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But as far as that goes, I don't necessarily like when my friends or somebody else like lives like that. Like, I just want to meet up with this boy. I met him on Tinder last night. Like, I don't like that. It's dangerous, and it's also like, it's fun for sure. It's fun, but I feel like it's like eating cookies, and you can eat as many cookies as you want. But then if you step on the scale, you see the cookies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's like, at the end of the day, I feel like I would like to treat my body like a temple. And at the end of the day, I feel like how am I trying to say this? I feel like I'm trying to say it in the sense of, like, I feel like we should carry ourselves like a fine prize and like a stock and keep it high. Yeah. So it's like, because and I believe this with men, like, when you see like, men want what other men want, right? So if you keep, like, nobody wants the toy that everybody kept touching. Like, they want the one toy that everybody wants, but nobody can touch it. It's sitting on the shelf. They can't reach it. You know what I'm saying? You have to be so unobtainable as a woman. And I also believe that everybody should feel like it's a privilege to be around you. It's a privilege to be in your presence, and you should move like that. That's how I feel.
I love that. Yeah. So I just want to start to wrap up, and I'm really curious. First of all, there was a lot of takeaways for me, a lot. One, it's okay for me to be who I am. Two, it's okay if I don't want sex, and if I want sex, it's okay if I want to, but don't use it as a weapon. That was my takeaway. What was your takeaways tonight?
The takeaway of all of us, I think, is like, just we're all learning and we're growing, and we all live in our past very differently, but I think we can all come to the agreement that, you know, communication is where we need to stand, and just be open and honest with whatever it is we're looking for whatever reason, at whatever time. And if that reason changes, again, be open and honest and communicate that.
Thank you.
And same thing, communication is key. And sometimes in your life you don't know what you want, but then other times you do know what you want. And it's okay to keep changing and evolving and knowing different things about yourself. And you should never be made like to feel bad about any of your needs or wants, in a relationship or out of a relationship. Yes. Right. It should be okay.
For me, just a reminder, we're every woman, right? Everybody has their own experiences, own perspectives, and you're going to take different things away from that. And I think we can continue to learn from each other. And just to piggyback off of what you said, you know, just being mindful, like, God created us for a purpose, right? So what is your goal, right? If your goal is to be married, then how are we moving towards that goal? If your goal is to not be married, how are you moving towards that goal? But just being mindful that God created us all for a particular purpose and to walk in that.
So thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. What a conversation. I told you it was going to get spicy the second part. So thank you so much for coming back. But if tonight's episode taught you anything, that is love, whether it's for someone else, yourselves. It's a journey, no matter where you are. If you're single, married, like myself, or in between, or just trying to figure it out, you deserve happiness, respect, and love that feels right to you. So thank you so much for joining these incredible ladies on this couch and in the live studio audience, and for you for watching at home and making this what it is. Make sure that you just subscribe and follow us on Instagram. Stay connected. Join us for the next episode of Every Woman. Until next time, take care of yourself, love yourself, and do not settle for anything less than what you deserve.
Yes.